hookup goes. Just the way it goes. Degrees.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the HOOKUP ON Music podcast, where we love to have a good time, and we love rocking, and we love the funk, and we love it all. We don't stop at any genre, and if you do, that's okay. Just don't hate us, because we love it all. And right now, I'm about to bring out the man, the myth, the legend. How's it going, my main man, Mick?
Oh, man, it's great. Great to see you, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you too. This is like our 5th hour journey. We're going a little bit different. We like to talk about movies, but the real reason I wanted to talk to Mick here tonight was from the very get-go. He told me that he played the bass guitar, and I also found out that he also plays some drums. And there's sometimes, every now and then, I like to dream in my head of a make-believe band, and Mick is standing there as my bass player next to me as we're rocking out on that stage. Thanks again, man, Mick, for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, dude. I love the idea of that, man. That sounds like a good time.
Honestly, if you ask me what helps me get me through sometimes the more non-positive, it's the imagination when I listen to music.
Sure.
So like tonight we're going to talk about a lot of bands. The bands that we'll talk about, the majority of them. I mean, it's cool to do that to put yourself in kind of I've done this since I was like in grade school. Well, and that was my problem because I took guitar lessons for a year, and instead of practicing, I tried to mimic it like the song. So I became more enthralled in the excitement of it and now I'm mad because I realized what I did, and I should have been practicing my guitar, unlike probably, you who is really, really, really awesome.
That's kind.
Well, I mean, anyone who can play or has some instruments and does it, I say is really, really really awesome. But what have you been listening to lately? What's the last thing you've played?
So the last thing I played, let's see, it was probably just like an hour ago. I listened to, I think the artist's name is Jake. It's JVKE.
Oh, cool.
And he has a song named called Golden Hour. Yeah, Golden Hour. It's a beautiful song. It's basically just like strings and piano, and it's just really like fast, piano part, and it's just vocals. It's a very simple song, but very beautiful. Which is not something that I probably would have listened to like 3 months ago, but I'm kind of my music journey has kind of evolved, as it should, in my opinion. So that was the last song I listened to. My daughter asked to listen to it. She's a huge fan of that song. So
I'm with you, man. Musical journeys, they take you different times. There's been times in my life where I've listened to more heavier stuff. Then there's times where I love the reggae because it makes me feel real good, like I'm on the island in the sun. Later, we're going to get into that a little bit by some of the stuff that you mentioned.
Okay.
Positivity is key, man. And music, it makes you feel every single way.
Yes.
And, that being said, I think the way that a lot of this music, as you just stated, the band that you described, which I'm going to check out later. That's what's always cool. See, that's why I love doing this, is because I've never heard of them, and now I know another band to add to my musical genre or collection here. Before we move on, I got a little clip here because we usually get together for movies, and I got a clip here because I think you commented on it earlier. That's your little. I'll give you your little hint. But what's this from?
I know it. Oh, classic. Oh, that's Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, man, that music, huh? I mean,
Ennio Morricone is honestly one of my favorite. If you want to call him a musician, because of course he is. He is one of my favorite musicians of all time. He's my favorite composer. I listen to him every week.
I that right there was me throwing the fastball right down the middle and letting you jet, because I knew. And honestly, what it really was earlier I was sitting there and I posted it and you liked it, and I was like, that'll be awesome to talk about for a minute, because that's what I want to do here. It's not, we're gonna at a later date when you come, we could look deep into the music and film. There's so much stuff to study, and scenes and music, and how well it all goes together. But as you heard from that clip from that movie, I mean, it really makes the whole movie, that the soundtrack. I
agree. A quick Ennio Morricone thing. Probably if you were to ask me my favorite song of all time, and I thought about it for a while, I might say The Trio from The Good, the Bad, and Ugly. Honestly, top 3 favorite songs of all time. No words. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's epic. That trumpet, it's just so good, man.
I mean, when it hits, that's really what it for that. And all of, I mean, from Once Upon a Time in the West to, as you said, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, even the couple first ones, for a few dollars more, and great, really good.
Fistful of Dollars, great. What a bunch of great spaghetti westerns, man.
I still remember it was 2000, 2001. And man, I went and found all of those DVDs, all 3 of them, back to back to back. And I had never seen them before until I bought those DVDs. Yeah. And you talk about great movies, man. Great movies.
Yes.
But I concur. Yes. When did you let's get started here. When did you start to play the bass?
So I really started getting into the bass in the early 2000s. I got my first bass for Christmas. My parents splurged on I don't know why they spent this much money, but they must love me. In 2003, they got me a Warwick rock bass, which is a very nice first bass. And I still have it. I was just playing it earlier today. In fact, it's one of my most prized possessions. I love it. Yeah.
That's a cool thing about instruments is I moved to town, and the buddy I befriended, he had it was a 68 Gibson Les Paul, and I would just stare at this thing because I had never seen anything like it. And he was the same thing. His mom worked somewhere, and she worked with the guy who was like, somebody passed away and was like, I'll give it to you for $1,000. And like the thing's worth a whole lot more than that. And you end up, you end up sometimes lucking into some really cool stuff. So, I mean, that, in your case though, it's awesome to keep it, and it's awesome to always cherish it. I really wish I still would have kept my Fender Squire, even though it was $60-$70, just to say, hey, my parents got me this, and it was the first guitar,
Yes.
That kind of stuff's important.
It really is. It's invaluable. Like I wouldn't part with that thing. Like it would be one of the first things I grab if my house was burning on fire. Probably get the kids. Okay, whatever. And then I'm getting my Warwick.
That's how my father-in-law plays the bass. And, it's the same thing as, and one day, maybe you'll pass it down, maybe show your kids something, and that, you brought up earlier, your daughter, showing her a song. That's kind of how I am with my daughter too. She's only 2. But nice. Since honestly, the day she was born, she does not go to bed without music on, and honestly, she hasn't had too many problems sleeping. She goes to sleep pretty well. And honestly, even when playing music, she's become aware of music, which is good, because it's always good to start have some music, any kind of music, really.
Absolutely.
Just to have, I love having early musical, that kind of stuff. But you also said you played the drums.
I do. I actually started playing the drums first. My drum journey started early. I played piano. That was like the first instrument I learned. I went to it was like the downstairs of the house. What's the house next to a church called? The parsonage? Yeah, the parsonage.
Yes.
And so it was like the pastor's wife would give like very cheap piano lessons, and so I started going there. And I was kind of my mom sang a lot. And was very musical, and my sister as well. She was older than me, so it just there was always music on at our house and in the car and everything. So I kind of liked it, but piano, I was like, this is fine, but I want to get my hands dirty. I want to beat some stuff. And so she partnered with somebody else who was giving drum lessons at the time, percussion lessons, and so I transitioned to that, and I took lessons for maybe about a year. And then everything after that, and I was very young. I was like maybe 11, and then everything else was just self-taught. I taught myself the money beat, yeah, exactly. The AC/DC basically,
Oh, yeah.
and then like from there, I just kind of put it together in my head, like you do.
Yeah.
And I've been playing ever since. And I have a electronic kit in my room.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I can play. I don't play at night, but because the kids are sleeping.
Yeah.
I can play during the day as loud as I want.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just playing around. I mean, you're looking at a guy who loves going into a place like Guitar Center and just getting behind the electric kit and pretending I'm Garth from Wayne's World.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, you're looking at one of the greatest air drummers of all time. But
I don't
what's
doubt
hilarious? Like I've air drummed to like Zeppelin, like Kashmir, and then I go behind the kit and it's like holding sticks and doing it when you're just like, it's not different.
It's tough to do that John Bonham, especially some of that bass work, bass drum work that he does.
It's like thunder and lightning and stuff like that. But you had mentioned that a song that recently had been lifting you up recently was this track right here. I mean, honestly, there was a time where like the first 7 or 8 albums, they were irreplaceable. So I'm almost glad that you brought them up to me because I hadn't heard this new album yet or this track. And, you had mentioned it being, off the album Uplifter, and it's very uplifting, which is what you look for.
It is. Yeah. So same with you. Like I discovered 311 early on in high school, I think, maybe even before that. And I really liked them. I listened to them a ton in the car when I first started driving. It was like 311 and Incubus and a lot of that kind of stuff. And I still like those bands and everything, but I don't listen to 311 all the time. But when I was looking for some positivity in my life, a few months ago, and I just kind of went back to my roots. I'm like 311 always makes me feel good, and so I listened to the album Uplifter, which came out, I mean, probably 15 years ago. And every song's positive. It's feel good. It's got some weight to it though too. It's not just hey, like everyone come around the campfire, kumbaya. It's got some weight to it, and I like that as well. And I in my opinion, it's probably their most underrated album.
I mean, honestly, you were right. It's from 2009, so about 15 years ago. Yeah, but definitely, that's about the album right before that. Don't Tread on Me. That was about kind of where a little bit, other stuff creeped up, and I don't know why I didn't listen to it. It wasn't because I didn't not like them anymore, but because honestly, I can name all the guys in the band forever because they're talented. Peanut is talented. He's really, 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 and the other guys too. I mean, and I'm a big fan of bands that last a long time. And it's all the original members still. So
you got to respect that, man. They got to be doing something right. They got to be good dudes, or they got to at least like each other and know how to coexist. There's something to that.
You're on the road, you're spending all this time together and stuff like that. Definitely is important to coexist and all of that. What but a lot of cool bass, a lot of cool drums, a cool interplay.
Yeah,
For the
Peanut
band.
is a very unique bass player.
Oh yeah.
He's got that, that early on those early albums like Music and Grassroots, even the Blue album. He's got a lot of, he's very, his right thumb was working, man. He was slapping. A lot of that funk influence, and then he kind of toned that down a little bit. He dusted off every once in a while, but he kind of put that on the shelf, and he just became a more versatile bass player. And I'm a big fan of him. And I think the best member of the band is probably Chad Sexton. He's just such a
that's who I was
groovy,
going to bring up.
tight drummer. I mean, man, he's good. Some of his hi-hat work, like when he opens his hi-hat on those, just I've tried to play certain 311 songs so many times, and I'm chucking sticks across the room. I'm like, I can't get it. It's really tough, man. He's really good, especially with his hi-hat work. It's very impressive.
Well, speaking of impressive drum work, you brought him up on the questionnaire. One of my favorites. This is his drum kit right here, and it's Mr. Danny Carey. My first experience was 97 Enema coming out, and my mom, she went to Carson's to get us our Lollapalooza tickets, me and two friends.
Okay.
And it was the last year before when they were still touring, and Tool was one of the headliners, and she got to like the Carson's, and she was like only 3 people there. And they did the lottery back then, and she like picked the lottery ticket, and she got up there second, and we were like in the 15th row.
Wow.
And it was like, it was Devo, it was them, Snoop was there, which we're going to get to in a little bit later, which I really want to get to. But they, Tool, man, that drum kit, the one, it was like this, but it was like seeing Pink Floyd, man, back in the day. The lights were crazy. I've talked to a couple other people online, but Danny Carey, man, really great drummer, really good pick.
Danny Carey is honestly probably my favorite musician, like maybe ever, but right now, like he's my favorite drummer of all time. He's just good. The way he, when you're thinking of like the all-time greats in terms of guitarists, you've probably heard people say, the greats, they can play like one note and you don't even know what song it is. You just instantly recognize that tone, that sound, like a Santana, for instance. He's always, collaborating with people on the radio, and like I'll hear his new song for the first time. He belts out one note, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Santana's playing the guitar on this track. This should be good. And that's all it takes. But Danny, like drummers usually don't get that recognition. Yeah. I can recognize a Danny Carey drum track from a mile away. Just his polyrhythms, his fills, his runs. He's just so unique, and he's just amazing. He makes my jaw drop probably more than any musician going right now.
I don't know if you've watched him. It's a really, really good time, but they have some he's cameraed up on the drums like on the last tour, and you see the cameras are really right on him, and you could see him, and honestly, I really like the newest album a lot too.
Me too.
I think it shows the maturity in their playing too, and his drumming, especially. I think it's the song is Invincible. It's like 12 minutes, and the bass on that song mixed with the drums.
Yes.
And honestly, that's why I sign up for music right there. I got to see, my big concert days were like 98 to 2003. Recently with a child and stuff like that. Yeah. It's tough and I'm also, honestly, anytime I could relax, I need to take the relax, and I can't do 7, 8, 9 hours because I think about the next day, and then the day after, and then my work, and then am I there for my daughter? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly, man. It's a commitment. It's not just the time you're away. It's the sleep you're missing out on, the time, how you're going to feel the next day. Your legs are going to be shot. Yeah. You got yard work to do.
But in the rare occasion, if I was ever to come across some close tickets, you know, I will definitely always. This is one thing that I think you will definitely something that you would need to see with your eyes, because definitely a band that has actually, for me, come across and raised up and been bigger than I think they probably thought that they ever would be.
Absolutely.
You know, and I wanted to take a look at this album, which you picked as one of your favorites right here, 10,000 Days, which starts off with this amazing track. I mean, obviously amazing. Great. So great. So awesome. You know, and I could see why it would be one of your favorite albums.
Yeah, man. Everyone talks about Anima and Lateralis, and hey, rightly so. Fair play. They, you know, the metalheads like the former, you know, the prog rock guys like Lateralis, and you know that's a deep album with just banger after banger and just relentless. It's just hitting you over the head with track after track, and like the whole Fibonacci thing. Like there's so many layers to that album. And so I understand why everyone, you know, puts those two albums as 1 and 2 in their discography. But in my opinion, 10,000 Days is them just mature, them actually, you know, having something to say. I mean, you know, there was a lot of angst in Anima. You know, Maynard was still working through some of his anger with like the church and religion and his mom and a bunch of stuff like that in Hollywood. And then Lateralis, you know, it was basically one big mushroom trip. And then 10,000 Days, they actually, the songs actually mean something. Like it's you know, it's Maynard's powerful, like thoughtful, insightful lyrics, but the band is more tight and polished than ever, in my opinion. And I don't really know why people don't put it up there with those other two albums. Because I find myself listening to Vicarious, The Pot.
Oh, The Pot. That was the song I was gonna do the clip from. I love The Pot. Jambi.
Yeah.
Earlier, my third guest, it was Sam. He's on Twitter. He was saying his brother's favorite song of all time was "Right Into." That's my favorite. Song. That's probably one of my favorite Tool songs, and that's like the second to last track. See, that's for me. I always like to listen to the whole thing because you never know what song's going to be your favorite, and the album is loaded, as you stated. You know, for me, I look at the Tool albums as like children. I can't pick; they're all awesome. Which mood are you in? And 10,000 Days. I mean, I remember that I was in college when that came out still, and it's a good one.
Agreed, man. And like 10,000 Days, one more thing about it is it feels more like a start and a finish. Like there's an actual journey that you go on. And I mean, every Tool song is a journey, but I feel like that album in particular, the entirety of it was put together so that you go on a journey and you feel something by the end of it. And like it's unlike anything I feel like that with some of Pink Floyd's albums. But yeah, 10,000 Days right up there, man.
That's definitely I definitely agree with everything that you said. You know, and it's another one. I think they're a band that shows you too, you know, you could find darkness in the light and light in the darkness and find different stuff too and look deeper. And you know, all of that, plus with amazing musicianship, like my 70-year-old father-in-law, when I go over to his house, he's got the Bass Player magazine sitting there and Justin Chancellor's on the front, and I could pick it up and be like, this guy right here, I know you don't listen to him, but he's really, really good, and you should know that because he's on your Bass Player magazine. And he's like, oh yeah. And the same thing with like Les Claypool and stuff like that, guys who maybe an older crowd don't listen to, but really, really awesome musicians.
Monsters, yeah.
You know, in the game.
Yeah, man. Justin Chancellor, we should mention him by name. What to say about him? He's got probably, in my opinion, like the best bass tone in the business. Like it's just every time I talk about his bass tone, I feel like I get hungry because I'm talking like like it's like tacos, like it's crunchy, it's
Oh,
beefy,
yeah.
you know, it's just so
Yeah.
perfect, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, across Enema Lateralis, 10,000 Days in the new one. I mean, he's pretty much he's got it, man. And I mean, I think it to the point where it allows the other guys to do a lot more stuff too. He plays a lot like the guitar, where the other guys are filling in around him, which is an awesome thing to be, because I love the bass and the drums, and it works really well. I mean, Adam Jones is an amazing guitar player too.
It's tremendous and a very unselfish guitar player.
Yes.
And with Justin Chancellor, I love how I mean, I don't know, his pedal board is amazing. Like the way he utilizes his pedals and his effects, my goodness, dude.
No,
so good. And his ability to do it live, and like that like just to name one example, like the solo in the pot, just that weird wah thing that he does, it's just so perfect, and he crushes it every time. And like it's not easy, man. Like there's a lot of manipulation there.
Some of those echo effects
that
to keep
delay
it going
effect.
and like to make it all. If you get a chance, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, Les Primus was playing, and then Danny Carey came out with Justin Chancellor, and they all did Enema, and with Les singing. I don't know if you saw that, but
I did actually.
Did you watch that? Did you?
I
like
did.
it? Pretty cool.
It was very cool. Anytime my Les Claypool was like, come on, he's like God to me, and Danny Carey is literally also God to me.
I mean, honestly, that's the thing, is I'm glad you did, because it's a must. You know, it's a really, really awesome. But they do that Riot Fest sometimes in Chicago here. Primus played a couple years ago, and they did one of those like night before concerts, and Danny Carey filled in for Tim Alexander because he had a heart procedure.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And they did a piece of Enema, just the three of them there too. I mean, as you stated, those two bands for me, I mean, that's it right there. I mean, really awesome, because they could be heavy, they could be funky, they could be deep, they could be progged out, they could be shortened. And honestly, that's sometimes my favorite stuff right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it depends on the mood, of course, but Primus, man, like that, like you want to talk about experiences. Like there's only been like maybe 2 or 3 times where I literally had to like pull off the road when I was driving, listening to an album for the first time, and Sailing the Seas of Cheese. The first time I went to Barnes and Noble, and I got the CD, and I put it in, and it was like, I think it might have, one of the, is it Luck? Is that one, like the second track?
Oh yeah.
I forget.
Is it Luck?
Is it my socks and shoes always match? And the freaking it's so weird, but it's so amazing. And like the fast syncopated, like it's like, what is he doing? What is that? And I didn't know, because I was just getting into the bass. And I just had to pull off the road.
My make-believe board over here. When I do Sailing the Seas of Cheese, I know who I'm calling. Sailing the Seas of Cheese is one of my favorite. I met this guy in college from like Southern Indiana, and he loved to fish. So I was like, you know what song you need to listen is Fish On.
Fish On.
And then by the end, by like a year later, that's what they were playing going fishing, was Fish On. And they had never listened to Primus before. And by the end, I'm like, pretty cool.
I love that, man. That's great. That's what music's all about.
It is. Really cool was that you shared with me that you went to this private event, in Las Vegas with the man, the myth, the legend, Snoop, which honestly, I've been to a lot of concerts. That sounds pretty freaking cool, man. I mean, if that was the only thing I'd ever gone to, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, like I've been to like a few concerts. I wish I went to more. I really do. I passed up on a few that I could have seen Muse at Lollapalooza. I could have seen Rage Against the Machine. I had a chance to see Tool.
Did you grow up kind of where you are right now?
Yeah, I grew up even in a smaller town in Indiana. I was born on the south side of Chicago, and then we moved out to Indiana when I was very young, like toddler.
I went to Ball State for 4 years in Muncie, so I'm and then I went up. I had a lot of friends that like lived over in like the Fort Wayne area and around there, so I'm well adverse to Indiana. Now I'm in the other side of Indiana and like Cherville. I mean, honestly though, where you're at over there, year. I mean, tough to get to concerts, you know.
Yeah, unless they come to the Joyce Center or Notre Dame or something, it's going to be tough, man. Yeah, for sure.
I remember it was cool. A buddy of mine in college, his dad worked at like the Fort Wayne Coliseum, and
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails came through, and he was able to get some pretty good seats.
Mm.
But okay, really quick here before
Yeah.
we roll out here. So Snoop, you're at this thing. It was good time, you said?
Man, it was great. It was a very private event. I used to play poker professionally for a few years back in the 90s.
Awesome.
Yeah, early 2010s, and it was a good year. I had a lot of success at the 2010 World Series of Poker. I finished runner up for a gold bracelet, actually.
Awesome.
I came in second place in
Mick,
the event. Which is
man, you always surprising me with cool stuff. This is awesome.
Yeah, man. So like that's another story. We'll get into that
another time. Don't worry.
So I was celebrating, and a lot of my friends were there. Like I met dozens of friends playing poker like over the years, and they were all there. And Poker Stars had this, they brought Snoop out, and he played, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 songs. It was during the World Cup. He was wearing a tracksuit of, the Spain national team. And he had like this ridiculous microphone. You've probably seen Snoop's mics. He's got a few of them, but just blinged out. The thing was probably worth like $500,000. And he was so cool, man. And it was so fun. And it was just a great time. Like all my friends, it was an open bar. Like everyone was feeling good. Everyone was having a great time. And Snoop couldn't have been cooler.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much, Mick, for joining me tonight.
Dude, you ask, I'll be here, man. I'm a huge fan.
And next month we'll set something up again, and we'll rock and roll, and we'll work in some of our movie magic with some music. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up too. We got a new Wes Anderson movie coming up. He's got a lot of good music in his movies.
Yes, he does.
Lots of awesome stuff. But thank you so much, Mick, again. You can always catch us at the Penguin Sadistic Twitter. You can catch us at the Hookup on Music Twitter, and also the good old Instagram, which my wife runs. So if you ever see Hookup on Music or anything else there, she's the one posting all that stuff because, she loves music. She came into this with now she went to Tool with me, and like 10 years ago, she probably couldn't even have told you who Tool was. And that's what's cool too, is you spread the music. You catch me at the Sugar Baggie. The podcast is available on Apple and Spotify and everywhere else you get that. Thank you so much. We will talk to you guys soon. And until then, take care while I find the awesome button to get up out of here. There we are. Take care, everybody.